and welcome back to another exciting episode of Mind the Force. This is a very special episode, as every episode is very special. We are talking about the famous, the infamous Star Wars Holiday Special. James, how the hell are you?
I am quite well. How the hell are you, Christine?
I'm feeling good. I'm excited about this episode for very obvious reasons, as we had a very special guest that we'll talk about more later. But I'm excited to talk about the holiday special because I feel like we can bring such a fresh perspective on it. I feel like it gets so much hate and so much flack. But you know what? We always keep it positive here at Mind the Force. And so I'm excited to dive into the positive things about the
Absolutely.
holiday special.
100%. It's 47 years old now, so it's as with the original Star Wars movie, it's creeping up on its 50th anniversary. So, half a century really of Star Wars, and this is one of the building blocks, one of the pillars of that Star Wars universe from the beginning. So, for those who haven't seen it, stop right now, go watch it. 1978. You could probably only bootleg it or watch it on YouTube or find it somewhere in
Yeah.
the annals of the internet. But it's worth watching. Hopefully Disney or puts out streaming version of it or a DVD, even though those are obsolete, just so you can watch it. It's about Chewbacca, his family, some variety special music in the cantina, and Kashyyyk, where they celebrate Life Day with Itchy and Lumpy and the whole crew, with the original cast too. However, it's not a strict sequel, but it is worth watching. There's also a documentary, A Disturbance in the Force, which is hysterical and very enlightening and poignant. Christine turned me on to it. Thank you. Mandatory watching. I thought it was quite essential. Kevin Smith's in it, Seth Green. They talk about what it was, even as an avant-garde piece, and why it really is critical to the Star Wars universe and all of the ancillary material that spun out. Would we have an expanded universe today? Would Disney do the things it does on TV, with Star Wars without that original seed being planted? Even though it was CBS special, it was a little bit divorced from the original Star Wars vision. Would the universe exist exactly as it does with the first appearance of Boba Fett, in a cartoon, which was farmed out and then inserted, with Life Day? Look, this is a comic from very recently. Would this all be part of the Star Wars canon today without this holiday special by Steve Binder?
Yeah, no, I think it's such an interesting piece of media. I watched it I guess 3 years ago, and yeah, I found a bootleg online. I remember I was in Germany with my husband for Christmas, and I just kind of had some time to kill. And I was like, I'm gonna watch that holiday special,
What
and
month? I'm curious.
it was December. It was right around the
Nice.
holidays, and it was an experience. It was interesting. It's an interesting special. It's you know what I was talking with my dad about it recently. Just because he remembers watching it as a kid when it came on the one time it came on television. Um, and it really is a great example of what variety show culture was in the 70s. Like it was
Right.
really like the pinnacle of like we have this thing. Like it was the first like it was early versions of making content for content's sake. Like it's
Right.
like here's this popular thing everybody loves. How do we make more of it? Like how do we monetize on that? Like whether it was with Star Wars they wanted to sell toys, and because they obviously had this like big toy deal and like the merchandising rights, or if it was I don't know, like insert variety show here. There was like the Brady Bunch variety show. There was the like any like hokey variety show. Like none of them were arguably good. Like they would be random. They would have celebrity guests and people would sing songs and do dances and that's really what it was. Is we love this thing and we want more of it. And how do we get more of it? We make a variety show.
It was rent a slot, basically. It's like, okay, paid advertising or paid whatever. This is what we need to do to sell this IP. Here's more of it because of the huge success of the 1977 movie, and no one really expected that. They're like, okay, we got to do more. But because the expectations were so high, they thought this would be The Empire Strikes Back, which they had to wait another 2 years for thereafter. So, I think in that exploratory period of Star Wars, you can even tell from some of the novels, the short stories involving Han Solo and Lando Calrissian and their adventures, and Splinter of the Mind's Eye, where they call it a Kyber crystal. These things weren't like hammered out yet or polished. So and they even talk about that in the Disturbance of the Force documentary. It's really a special time in Star Wars before everything was clean, before the cleanness of Empire came out, and settled the lore basically, and kept continuity notes and all that. Even though the
Yeah.
holiday special is still canon, but yeah, it was a different era in TV and variety. We don't see that anymore. Kids today would be like, if they watched it, they'd be like, what's going on? It's really the MTV Music Awards is the variety special. That's kind
Right.
of that's what it's transformed into: award shows, reality shows. It just TV's different. We don't have paid for
Right.
cable like we used to. It's streaming. It's not what it was.
Right. Even at the time it came out, my dad pointed this out. It was the early days of cable television. Like it wasn't like where they definitely didn't think about things in terms of like, oh, this is gonna live on the internet forever. Like people are gonna be able to go back and dissect
Right.
this, and like it
What's a
has to be
YouTube?
of
Yeah.
yeah, like what like that would be crazy to even consider. Like it was shown once, like the week before Thanksgiving, and nobody ever saw it
That's it.
again.
Never.
Like you said, even now it's never been put into any kind of like syndication or production. It's very like iffy to find. It's a like you'll have to go through some very suspicious websites to find it. But it's interesting because it's one of those things like we love it for the sake of it. Like we don't love it because it's good. It's not a great thing to watch, but we watch it and we love it because it's Star Wars. And especially at that time, they were they were so starved. Like I don't know if starved for content is the right word because I know that would come later when it's like damn near like almost 2 decades of no Star Wars anything
Right.
besides the novels and the comics. Like I remember my uncle Matt phrased that he's like they were starving. Like they were definitely starving through the late 80s and 90s. But even at this time there was that height of excitement. Like the first movie had just exploded and it was trying to take advantage of that momentum, trying to keep that train going. And so they made this holiday special and people loved it just for the sake of it. They were like, we'll take whatever you want to give us. And at the time there was no internet, there was no way for people to bark back or give an opinion. It's like, we're gonna make this thing and we're gonna put it out. And there wasn't really much I can't imagine there was much of a care for reviews.
Right. It was just, let's just get it out there. Something for the kids to watch while the parents are drinking eggnog, and hopefully they'll look over too. It's that sort of thing. And maybe people will go out and, support the next movie when it comes out. Oh, maybe, it will build this franchise for the Hollywood system making a buck, really. It
Like,
always is about money, but
it
they
is.
didn't look at it the same model. Honestly, when you look at Star Wars in general, uh this was not handled the same way. George Lucas did come up with the idea, like the germ of an idea, but kind of farmed it out, and that's also discussed in the documentary. You know, CBS and whatnot, their team took it over, and they made it something that wasn't really cohesive in the sense that they had a long game plan, as we've been discussing. So Steve Binder got the call on Friday, was in on Monday, so he kind of came in late as the director. He also directed the 1968 Elvis comeback special, which got Elvis, back like a hound dog. But
I mean, if you saw all that leather, you'd want him back too. He looked good in that.
well, he was sleek. He was, yeah, exactly. And Steve Binder was just the man. But there was negative reaction and I guess a recoil sort of to the holiday special, only because people's expectations were subverted in a way they didn't expect. They didn't know what it would be in one dimension. The other dimension is kids watched it at the time, they loved it. Adults watched it, they loved it because those who didn't go in with those expectations were like, this is just fun, and those are the letters that they would write to Steve Binder. Those are the letters that they would even publish online on Reddit and whatnot. You could see the things that people say about it in hindsight when they were young and watch it. There was an air of nostalgia. I watch, like for instance, like Showgirls, for instance. I love that movie, but at the time it was panned. Cult classic sort of. I love
Right? So
those sorts of
racy.
things. Right, racy, interesting. Like, what were they thinking? But then, and there's like psychological element. Like, okay, what is this really telling us? Okay, when you watch the Star Wars Holiday Special, it is a bit surreal, avant-garde, disturbing in some senses, but I think
Right?
that adds all to its charm. Like, it is,
Right?
when you look at it through that lens, it is immensely enjoyable, and it is just a building block of Star Wars. It's when you look at it from as a Star Wars fan, seeing okay, this is that necessary cog in the machine. Like, what did it build? It's critical, really. Without it, it's you remove the special sauce. You remove the secret ingredient from the chili, and it tastes bland. It wouldn't be what it is. We can never remove it and say what would Star Wars be without it. So it's always important to keep it in, and A, to keep it canon, and B, to talk about it, to have these discussions, to shine light on it, to get other fans to watch it, because it's, if anything, it's just history, and it's
Right?
with us forever.
I mean, that's the glory of a cult classic is think about all the things that we consider cult classics these days and like the feelings that they stir. When they first came, like it's very typical for cult classics that when they first come out, they're not well reviewed, they're not well revered. I remember the first time I ever watched Rocky Horror Picture Show. That was weird.
Yeah.
That was weird as fuck. I was like, all my friends, I was in high school, all my friends were super into it. We watched it on Halloween. I just remember being like, I don't get it. I don't understand. But now I love Rocky Horror Picture Show. Like I love the music. I just want to do the time warp. Like it's great. Um but it's like I had to get it. Like sometimes you just have to get it to love it. And that sometimes that comes with time. Sometimes that
Yeah.
comes with like taking a step back and appreciating it for what it is and the bigger picture of what it did. Like what you said, like launched how it launched all of this important canon. Um like I was thinking affectionately about how people got so annoyed with like the 4 or 5 minutes of Chewbacca's family
Yeah.
just talking in Tree.
Shriwook, yeah. Like,
But you know what?
today, yeah, it's miming.
Right? But you know what? I like one of our earliest episodes was a Chewbacca episode. And honestly, we've won awards for that episode because once you actually get into the deep lore of Chewbacca as a character over the course of the whole IP, he's an amazing character. Like he's super interesting. I defend that episode to the end of the world because everyone's like, you did 2 hours on Chewbacca? Well, what was it about? And I'm like, you better go
It's,
listen to it
it's like
and find out.
not everyone, who doesn't speak English, doesn't mean
Right?
they don't matter, or
Right?
common or basic.
Just because he's not speaking basic doesn't
Yeah.
mean that he's basic. All right?
Space English, yeah.
He's a very deep character.
There was a whole
Um
comic on him in 2015, I believe. It was a 5-part limited series, and he only speaks in Shriwook, and there's this little girl, and it's charming because it's the
it is.
interactions. And I get he's like the silent Bob, and Kevin Smith even interestingly talked about him. He's a silent Bob. I mean, there's already an R2, but it's like okay, he can't talk, but he can interact. He's not just there for comedic relief. He's often there to save the characters, and yeah, I thought it was really cool to make him the furry, centerpiece of the holiday special because of that charm, really. Because he's really the only character that a holiday special could revolve around when you think about it at the time.
Right? Well,
It
he
would be
is
weird if it was anyone
also
else.
well, it's also the only person or the only like character in Star Wars if you think about the larger scope of it where his life wasn't always surrounded by war. It's like it's not all built around like, oh, we're fighting the Empire. We're living in like this like horrible regime or the fall of the Jedi. Um Chewbacca is like 150 years old. Chewbacca's old by the time he meets Han and everything in the Skywalker saga is happening. So he has a life. Like I think it's a beautiful thing to show like Chewbacca's a father and a husband and has a life on this planet and like he chooses to follow Han around for bigger reasons I won't get into now. Go watch the Chewbacca episode if you want to find out. And I think it's really cool because then Lucas was able to shape this idea, which is all he provided was the idea, and then he went away because he had things to do. He provided that trope of, father has to make it home for the holidays. Like it's simple, it's poignant, it's gonna resonate with audiences, it's gonna like be a little heartwarming. And like it's very what's the movie I'm thinking of? Miracle on 34th Street. Like it's very like all the movies, think about all the movies throughout the 90s that kind of followed that same trope that I'm sure stemmed off like in some ways stemmed off the same like life day trope of all these kids who watched the special as children. And it's and I think like that, and you can do that with any of the characters because they were all kind of like not tragic characters, but they were all like these like heroes coming from these like rough backgrounds. And Chewbacca's like, I'm just a guy, I'm just a dude, and I have a life and I have priorities. And my wife said I need to get home for fucking Life Day, and that's what he did.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I love that too. He listens to his wife because, you
Right?
know, sure, the man could lead the family sort of thing, but it's the woman who rules the man. And I love that because it's like at the end of the day, Chewbacca could be breaking necks, flipping stormtroopers down reactor cores, but he still loves his wife and realizes he has a duty to her, and Lumpy and Itchy and the whole gang. It's
Right?
really there's something heartwarming about that.
Right? Even the scoundrel Han Solo is just like, yes, Mala, I'm getting him home. I'm so sorry. Like
Yeah,
I'm on my
I love
way.
it. It's like, where is he, Han? Were you out at the cantina again in Mos Eisley? No, no, no. Was that fucker Greedo there? No, no. I promise you, we were. It was a nice, wholesome evening, right? And he's like,
Right?
you better recover from my ass, Han, or I'm going to strangle you. Yeah. Well,
Right? So Han, you better send my husband home.
right, exactly. Well, little treat. We're going to do the rest of the episode only in Shriwook. So hope you guys watch the special, understand, and then you can translate. No, we'd never do that to you guys.
I don't think we'd
But
know how to do that.
it kind of sounds reminds me of Blue's Clues a little bit. Who
It's
talks
just a
like
little
that?
bit.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Anyway, guys, we're
That'll
not
be
high, I promise.
that'll be the socials clip.
Right.
It's just
But
mumbling.
but there's something I wanted to say too about it because we were talking about that exploratory period, which the documentary does a good job of using that word and blowing my mind a little bit. Again, you can look at the material. It wasn't really hammered out. It wasn't very down, I guess, with the program just yet. But when you look at the material that came out in chronological order, there was the 1976 novelization of Star Wars by Alan Dean Foster, but he wrote under the pen name George Lucas. But George Lucas never really wrote a book his whole life. These guys, they just get ghostwriters. So it's well acknowledged now. Alan Dean Foster, who also did The Force Awakens, The Approaching Storm, Splinter of the Mind's Eye. He pioneered really the Star Wars expanded universe before the Star Wars movie even came out. Because back then, like Planet of the Apes, Star Wars, they'd want tie-in media to get people excited, and Star Wars has been doing that. Like I would read the or the Dark Horse comics before episodes 1, 2, and 3 came out because they came out like a month before. So I already know the plot going in. I'm like, oh, Django's gonna get his head cut off. But they always did little things that were different because in production, post production, things change. They drop stuff. So it wasn't always a 1-to-1. So I was surprised. In Revenge of the Sith, I'm like, those lines weren't in the comic. What? Oh my God. So anyway, that novelization came out in 1976. Then the 1977 Star Wars movie New Hope, and the Marvel Comics adaptation. So Marvel Comics launched in 1977, so we got those 2 years. 78 was the third year, and that had the fourth and fifth expanded media, which was the sequel to Star Wars, both the novel and the movie, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, again by Alan Dean Foster. Talks about kyber crystals, Luke and Leia basically off on their own without Han, because they didn't know what would happen with his future, kind of fighting specters of Darth Vader and Darth Vader himself. In a way, yeah, it's like Star Wars 1.5 or 4.5. And then the holiday special, which came out later that year. So really, if you look at it, depending how you count it, the holiday special was number 5. But that's early enough, with all the media that's coming out, where there's 5 books, a month now, or 5 comics a month. That was the legs that Star Wars stood upon. Steve Binder and the crew who created this, brought it into existence, gave us the canon. It's also canon. It gave us the blueprint. It gave the framework for what would happen, good or bad. So it's in its inception, it's what's the word? In its starts with a C. In its nascent stages. There's another co something, I forget the word. But it was in its nascent stages, and watching that unfold, especially in the Star Wars holiday special, you can kind of see the creativity. You can see like them trying to figure it out, and that's a really fascinating part of Star Wars history and just production history in general, film history.
I know, I feel like it's such a special time in history when this kind of content was being made, like the variety show, the holiday special, and I guess how movies were being made and developed. So the fact that somebody um like Steve Bender could come in so last minute and just kind of pick up and run with it. Like I wasn't here for the whole time, but I'm gonna make some magic happen. I feel like nowadays, like no, like everything would just come to a freezing halt. And I don't know, they'd either scrap it and eat the loss, or the person couldn't quit. I feel like the contract just wouldn't allow for it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, contractual obligation.
right? Um, but I feel like it's such an interesting time in not only Star Wars history at the time, but like how we look back on it now. Because I feel like it's so cool to shit on the Star Wars special. Like I feel like that's how people end up even hearing about it in the first place, and hopefully we change that narrative. Maybe we can make it positive. Is that it's like, oh, did you watch the holiday special? Wasn't it terrible?
My advice is just take it for what it is. If I go to the bar,
Right,
speakeasy out here in Vegas, and the drink isn't what I expected, I'm like, okay, you know what? There's always another drink down the road. Enjoy what I got now. I'm alive. I love this drink. Whatever it is, just deal with it,
right,
sort of. But
right,
it wasn't
right.
like pulling
Love for
teeth with
the
the holiday special, though. Yeah,
right, love for the love of it.
right. Love for the love of it.
Yeah, no, like you said, like it expanded things to include Boba Fett in that really cool, like sort of like trippy animation, which was a fun choice. Um,
That's the only
and like,
version that's still available on Disney Plus. You can watch the special on YouTube, but only that part is officially distributed by Disney.
really, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that was on Disney Plus. That's kind of cool. So see, maybe they'll do something with that animation style. Um, but I feel like it's a just another point of nostalgia. It's like people remembering, oh, I was like I mean, Star Wars in general is one big nostalgia fest. I feel like the people today who gripe about, and I think I've said this before, the people today who gripe about new Star Wars and they're like, oh, I only acknowledge the original trilogy. I don't like the sequels and I don't watch the shows and I don't like absorb any of the other content, which is fine. Take it however you take it. Like nostalgia is so important to them. That feeling that they had at that time is so important to them. And if it doesn't regenerate that feeling, then they don't want it. And so I think it's cool because you think about something like the holiday special that aired one time, that one night, almost 50 years ago. And so, like, you talk to someone who watched it, like someone who watched it or someone who made it, which we'll get into soon. And they say, like, yeah, I was a kid, I was a teenager, and yeah, we watched it on that one Friday night and like you were so excited about it. You saw all the commercials about it. And I know that that first year they weren't quite making toys yet, but they were like kind of selling the coupons so you could order the toys. So you could have it by like early the following year, not quite for Christmas, if I remember how their production was behind correctly. Um and I just think that's a beautiful point of nostalgia. If you can really point to something that's like such a finite memory, such a specific pin in like the space of your childhood. I don't know, I guess like revisit that special feeling you had, that excitement that you had. I feel like we really don't get that nowadays because of how much information is thrown at us all the time and how readily available everything is. Like I read somewhere, having had a child recently, I was reading something about generations, and they said that this current generation is going to be the least nostalgic.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
why would they need to be? Like why would they need to be? Like anything they want they can have immediately. Like the internet will provide it for them, or they can order copies of it on, or they don't even need to order copies of it online. They can access anything through the internet, whether it's photos or videos or shows or movies or any kind of content. Like they don't
They
have to
could
be nostalgic about anything.
they can only be nostalgic for people or memories, right? Moments that have passed in time. But right,
Exactly.
other than
And honestly,
content, yeah.
now with AI, you miss your grandpa, you can put in a fucking photo of him into AI and it'll start talking to you.
You could put Peter Cushing back in a Star Wars movie, or have James Earl Jones forever. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It
like
does raise
in
interesting questions.
perpetuity.
Well,
Um,
I just hope AI never touches the holiday special because it's perfect as is. I
right.
would never want that to be altered.
Right, right. I wouldn't mind if John Favreau touched it. He
Well,
can
there
put a spin on it.
they do mention in Disturbance of the Force, like, hey, have George go back, and George Lucas, what he does to it, go have him, George Lucas the holiday special. I was like, no, no, no. There's a funny South Park about that where Spielberg and Lucas go back and like we always wanted, uh, uh, like 3D aliens in our movies, and we just didn't have the budget at the time, or we wanted a woolly mammoth, yeah, and it's like, but now that we can, and that's kind of like just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. So I don't want them
Right,
to, for instance, subtitle or dub Chewbacca's 15-minute Chewbacca
right.
dialogue with
It
his
just
family. I
right.
don't
It
want to know
doesn't
what it's
matter what they
saying.
were saying. It doesn't
Right.
matter what they were saying.
Watch it be
Or
like
they
they'll be
they
like,
need to do like Taylor's version, the Taylor
right,
Swift
right.
album. They need
Chewie's
to do
version,
George's version.
George, and they're just saying like, the Wookiees are actually talking bad about the viewer. That would be what a plot twist. Like, look at them
Right.
watching us. We know they're there,
Mm.
but
We're
yeah,
we're breaking the fourth wall.
right, and they don't even know it. We're Deadpool first, yeah. But I mean, yeah, there's just so much to it. It's really fascinating. Star Wars 1.5, 4.5, however you look at it, it's just the holiday special. And it also allowed, Family Guy and Robot Chicken to do their holiday specials too. Well, more Family Guy. They did the Star Wars, three-parter as well.
Yeah.
And it's just cool to see that kind of take on it really spin out. And I think, the Star Wars, to me, the expanded universe really began not with the novels or the comics, but with the holiday special. It was the first non theatrically released and televised work. And there was droids, there was Ewoks in the 80s, and then in the 90s, they went back to the movies and focused on the expanded material in the comics and books. Then the 2000s and 2010s and 20s. Now it's just TV is more ubiquitous, and like you
Yeah.
said, with the content and the nostalgia element, it's just so saturated. There's the Acolyte, there's Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka, The Mandalorian, Skeleton Crew, so much on the horizon as well that I just don't think this would have existed without the original Star Wars holiday special. Sure, something else would have come along eventually, but in the form that it's in now, it's like the butterfly effect. If you remove one Jenga, block, would the whole thing have come down? Would it have been as popular? What would Empire have been made? Is the question. Yes, there was a success of the 1977 movie, but would people's interests have lingered as long? Would it still be a topic of conversation had they not had that 1978 stopgap or stepping stone to the next IP?
Right. Or even because I do think at the time, if I read correctly, of course this is all hearsay because you can't believe everything you read on the internet. That when they were making the holiday special, they actually were already greenlit for Empire. And that's why Lucas
Okay,
didn't really like have much to do
it's
with the
focusing on that.
special because he had to go focus on Empire. So it also bears the question of if they made the holiday special later, I wonder what it would have been.
Well, you probably wouldn't have gotten the actors in with that budget after the success of Empire. They're like, we're a brand
Right?
now, bitch. We're a brand. They wouldn't have been able to hire them because it was only a few $100,000. They would have asked for millions. They wouldn't have been in it. It would have just been all Shrewook. It would have been all the Wookiees, and maybe everyone, even Carol Burnett and all them, or whomever, Jefferson Starship. They would have asked for
Yeah,
more
like a
money
lot more
because
money.
at that point it was only a year and it was hot, but versus 4 or 5 years of being hot. Wait, was it Jefferson Starship or Airplane that was in
I think it was Jefferson Starship, and I believe they were only in it because of the
the
Starship part.
spin-off? Yeah, Jefferson Starship.
And
Yeah, makes
then
sense.
B. Arthur singing in a cantina and
Yeah.
dancing with a giant rat. I think. Just like such quirky moments and like, oh wait, and costumes by Bob Mackie, which is super cool. As a
Oh
fashion
yeah.
as a fashion historian, I was like, "What?" Like that's amazing. Like that he made these random acrobatic costumes for some 3D toy that Lumpa LaRue was playing with on this
That's
holiday special.
I love that, and and the actress who played him recently died. Actually, I was just looking it up. I think this year.
Oh wow.
Lumpy's. I don't want to just say that actress. I want to actually get her name. Let me check it out. Her name is Lumpa Wuru. That's his full name, also known as Wuru or Lumpy. Um, and the actress for this, sorry, internet
No,
screwed
it's
me,
fine.
was
We're disseminating
Patty
inf-
Maloney.
Ah,
Yeah, Patty
R.I.P.
Maloney died
Patty.
March 31st. Yeah, R.I.P. Patty.
Yes, thank you for
And,
your
and
beautiful contributions to Star Wars.
that's what's even like for Wicket, Warwick Davis, people like them, even Kenny Baker, even I'm drawing a blank on the Peter Mayhew, sorry for Chewbacca. Like these actors, even with zero lines of dialogue, all added tremendously, to this lore. They all did their part, each and every one of them. They're there forever. It's history, and it's amazing. I think in 200 years from now, either AI or aliens will look at it, and they'll be like, "Wow, humans were sure imaginative creatures, weren't they?" In the past tense, yeah.
And of course, before we get into the big business, we have the little business. To stay up to date on everything Mind the Force, please check us out in all the places. You have mindtheforce.com, you have Instagram, you have Facebook. And for all the latest episodes and content, please follow, subscribe, and share on all your favorite podcast streaming platforms. You have your Spotify's, your YouTube's, your Apple Podcasts, your Pocket Casts, etc., etc. Um, please hit the link tree and you'll find the clickables, the places to do all the stuff. Please shoot us 5 stars and email us your big Star Wars thoughts, feels, and smoke. We're always here for the smoke. At mindtheforcepodcast@gmail.com. Please go do all of that and then come on back.
And we would be remiss if we did not provide our content spoiler warning. So you can never say we never told you. Mind the Force podcast is a retrospective on Star Wars characters across all Star Wars content. All films, TV shows, novels, comic books, and video games are up for discussion. If you don't want some aspect of currently released Star Wars content to be spoiled, turn around, go watch it, then come back.
We were extremely fortunate. Like, probably the coolest thing we've done on the podcast so far. We had the delight of speaking with the Star Wars Holiday Special director, Steve Binder, in an absolutely fabulous conversation. Really top notch about the production and about his career over the course of the past several decades. Of course, besides the Star Wars Holiday Special, Steve is just like an absolute powerhouse and also recorded the 1968 Elvis Presley comeback special, which is extremely cool if you haven't seen it. Diana Ross live in Central Park in the 80s. He's worked with Barry Manilow and Patti LaBelle and Wayne Newton and Liza Minnelli and just a myriad of some of the greatest talents throughout the 20th century. Really famous for directing variety shows. Was really his bread and butter, and well, it's because he's damn good at it.
And hence why he got the call too. They're like, "This is the man for the job." Even though he came in at such a late stage and did what he could, he had fun with it. He enjoyed his time, as we'll see, and it was something really special. He got a lot of crew out of that, and he kept continue working with them for years thereafter. All the actors at the time had nothing negative to say. It was only certain fan reactions that did poison the well over time, but ultimately, Steve Binner is a seminal contributor to the Star Wars universe or galaxy, I should say.
Right,
So yeah.
but we're gonna let him tell it. Let's check out that interview now. Hi, Steve. How are you doing today?
Doing great, Kristine.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited to have you. Really, truly humbled. Um, I think you just might be one of the coolest people I've ever spoken with. As you've just touched on really all the greats throughout the 20th century, in my opinion. Um, I'm considering starting an Elvis podcast just to have you back on, just so we can talk about it.
Oh, that I'm going to be 93 in a couple of months. And, just having been on this planet for so many years and experienced so many different uh, experience working with artists and so forth, I just consider myself so lucky every time I wake up in the morning.
Likewise, and at 35, I feel that way too. I'm only a third of the way through, but I hope to live as fulfilling and exciting a life.
Well, the population is living a lot longer now, and let's hope you hit 100.
Yeah, or 120 even. I would love to. Yeah, and more Star Wars podcasts.
My fingers crossed. But of course, we have you here today because we had a few questions, not about some of your most famous works, but about one of your more infamous ones. Of course, we are talking about the Star Wars Holiday Special. And I guess we know like the general story, all the issues with like production, and of course, kind of how people feel about it ongoing. But I guess I'd love to start with kind of how you felt stepping into this last minute role. You've told us that it was literally you got the call on a Friday, you were in on a Monday. Oh,
I was actually shooting on Monday, but just over the years and being able now to be objective and reflect on the past, everything has changed, and I think the public doesn't really realize, what a the story behind the making of the holiday special, and totally misinterpreted it when it first came out. I didn't really have much time or any time to really uh, get into the Lucas script that he basically wrote himself. And my friends Hemian and Smith were the executive producers, and Dwight Hemian specifically was a great primetime variety director himself. And when Gary Smith, the producer, called me and literally begged me to come in and pick up the pieces because they had completely shut down the production at Warner Brothers uh, after basically blowing the entire budget in the first few days of production and still having over half of the script to shoot. Uh, what really kind of sealed the deal was the fact that if I would come in and be able to complete the production, I would be saving hundreds of jobs. And so that motivation alone, was more incentive for me to do it. And yet to come in and work with the Star Wars original cast from the first movie was such a privilege for me. I was thrilled to death. And you have to realize when Lucas made the original movie deal with 20th Century Fox, and it wasn't completed yet, and showed it to them, the executives at Fox, in their infinite wisdom, hated it. And they told Lucas, uh, pay for finishing your movie, we'll give you 100% of the merchandise, which turned out to be a windfall for Lucas. There was more money in the merchandise than there ever was in the motion picture. So Lucas immediately made a deal with Kenner Toys and decided to merchandise all the characters that he had created. And so by the time Hemian and Smith went into production on this children's show to sell toys, uh, you know, the original Star Wars movie became a runaway success. There were lines around the block waiting to see it. But at that time, when they made the deal, they had no idea whether it was going to be successful or a turkey. And so, you know, Dwight and Gary were brilliant primetime adult variety producer and directors. And maybe they were the wrong choice that Lucas picked, because maybe he should have picked somebody like Paul Rubens from Pee Wee's Playhouse, all toys to kids, etc. And there was no publicity at the time telling the public in any way this was not Star Wars Movie 2. And I think the public was anticipating when they turned on their TV sets that they were going to see another movie, which cost millions of dollars. And here was a television special for CBS that cost, literally just a few $100,000. And they were so disappointed originally because most of the audience were adults that watched it. I always, if I was asked about Star Wars, I was never negative. I had a great time doing it. I love the cast and working with them. They seemed to enjoy doing the project. And if there were any complaints on the set, is because at that time uh, it was acknowledged that the movie was a huge success, and they were disappointed that they didn't get some profit from the movie rather than their, I'm sure, minimum salaries. But other than that, they were totally enthusiastic. Uh, I spent a lot of time in downtime talking to the cast, and I didn't hear any complaints from them at the time. I know there've been a lot of interviews since where they kind of shy away from admitting they even did it. But the truth of the matter is, uh, for the reason that it was done, uh, and I'm sure Lucas sold a ton of children's toys of his characters, rightfully so. But him pretending he had nothing to do with it was a total fantasy. Uh, I worked with a lot of members of his staff and crew, and you know, it was it was an interesting production for me because I had just completed a production on another show, and the day after I finished shooting Star Wars, I was already committed doing another production, and so I didn't even have time to do any of the post production, which I love to do on all my shows. And uh, Mitzi and Ken, who were the producers, line producers of the show, literally were Carol Burnett's special material writers for the musical numbers and had no experience when it came to putting a big variety show together. And I thought they did a terrific job with what they had to work with. And and interestingly enough, I get as much Star Wars fan mail in a positive sense today uh, as I got negative fan mail. Uh, Kids who are now adults and over 50 write to me detailed fan letters telling me how much they loved watching the special as a kid. And I think, the test of time is really the end result. And, I'm just thankful that I'm part of the Star Wars history, though I'm not a big Star Wars movie fan. Uh, not too much into science fiction. Uh, I was one of the first ones in my neighborhood to run to the theater to see the original. I did enjoy watching it, and and then when I got the call from Gary Smith to do the holiday special, uh, I was thrilled, and that feeling never left me to this day.
We're thankful for you too, and thankful that it exists. Honestly, I like quote unquote cult classics, campy stuff. That exploratory period between 1976 and 1980, when Star Wars was still figuring out what it was, building its foundations. You contributed heavily to that, and I guess we can get into that a bit. But it's I wish it was on DVD. It's only really bootlegged, or YouTube and whatnot. I want to own it.
I do too. And I think the real message of the show of a father returning home to be with his family on Life Day was a great message. in the content of the script. And I think the fact that Gary and Dwight decided to put in uh, primetime variety stars in the cast, Harvey Korman, who gained fame when I did the Danny Kaye show, and then Carol Burnett. Uh, the he had so many adult guest stars uh, that I think kids would appreciate it much more. The Sesame Street characters with the action figures than the choices that were made to do a primetime variety show. And but I got to work with some of the best behind the scenes crew members in Hollywood, including George Lucas's original staff on the Star Wars movie, just dealing with the Chewbacca family and their costumes. And I know Patty Maloney, when she came to the set, she was a little person and she only weighed less than 60 pounds. And I think when we wrapped up, she probably lost 20 pounds. I was fearful for her health. And they were only allowed in those costumes for 40 minutes out of the hour. So, that 20 minutes of letting them breathe and recuperate, being in those heavy costumes, cost me a lot of uh, time that I could have used in production itself. But you know, we succeeded in all the hurdles thrown at us, and it was shot at Warner Brothers on a large movie set, and when it came time to doing Life Day, here I am on this enormous soundstage, and my art director tells me we don't have any money for scenery, and we like 100 people, extras, and all the stars showing up. And luckily, earlier I had done a ice skating piece with Peggy Fleming and comedian Victor Borgia, uh, and had actually designed the set to be filled with candles. And they filled up the space beautifully. And I told my art director, well, we got to have at least enough money to buy a bunch of candles. And I had to buy out every retail store in Hollywood that he could find. And I said, I don't care about the sizes; they can be large or small. Just buy hundreds of candles, and we'll fill the stage with them. And I thought it was pretty effective. I mean, I don't think anybody realized that we were basically filling an empty stage. And so there were so many positive things that happened while shooting the special. And, I had a great time. I mean, I will tell you, I have nothing to say negative about it. Uh, uh, it was one of the highlights of my career. And I even noticed, unfortunately, we lost both Gary and Dwight, who passed away. But I noticed on Gary Smith's website page, his lead show was Star Wars Holiday Special. And
Wow.
Cool.
and Gary and I went back to when I first really got into major shows, when I did Hullabaloo in New York, uh, and Friend DC. And we maintained our friendship, as well as Dwight and myself, over the many years that we worked. I even worked with them. I did 4 Emmy national shows, and they were the executive producers on all 4 of them. And I produced and directed all of them. And so, the business is all about family and people to begin with. And it was great starting a production, but it was always sad when you said goodbye to everybody, especially when you're freelance and realize you may not see or work with them ever again. But I was really fortunate. I held on to a lot of my original people over the years. And, if anybody comes up to me and starts any negative talk about Star Wars, I'm always the first one defend the production and say, it's part of the Star Wars history, and I'm really proud of it.
Set them straight. Yeah, you tell them.
Right. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. It's I guess coming into that kind of like high pressure last minute situation, I'm sure it would be so easy to get frustrated. But it seems like you kept such a good attitude and that the spirit on set was really positive. And that makes me so happy to hear as a Star Wars fan who also I don't like negative Star Wars talk. I think it's such a big wonderful galaxy that why bring negativity into it? So I'm so happy to hear that the Star Wars holiday special was a joyous thing for you to make.
Yeah, you know, I will say, uh, no matter whether it was Elvis Presley or Olivia Newton-John or Diana Ross, uh, I always tried to do the best work I possibly could. Not uh, If you start noticing the director, uh, you're not really servicing the star. The goal of any show is to make the stars look as good as they possibly can. I With all the negative stories that I hear about Hollywood and relationships and so forth, somehow it bypassed me. I've had great relationships with the people I've worked with only maybe one or two exceptions. And I'm one of those guys who couldn't wait to wake up in the morning to go to work, and hated when the final wrap signal was given, and we had to go home. and and I love editing. I would burn out, two or three editors a night, who were, you know, a lot younger than myself, but they would be exhausted after 8 hours. I was just getting started. I loved it.
That's beautiful. And to riff off what Christine said, it's just great that it's an addition to the Star Wars galaxy. In a way, of course, there was the success of the first movie, and there was some other ancillary material. But who knows what Star Wars would be today without that special? Star Wars is bigger on TV than it is in movies. There hasn't been a movie since 2019. Everything's on Disney Plus. So I like to think that the Star Wars Holiday Special had something to do with that. Foray into other media, be it comics, novels, television. And like you said, though, productions changed from the 20th century to the 21st. Cable's out the window. It is all basically streaming. No one, the whole family doesn't just sit down at 8 or 9 p.m. anymore because if you miss it, you miss it. It's even past the era of VHS, DVD, and video on demand recording. It's more just okay. When can you watch it? All right, it's available. Just throw it up. And I really think Disney needs to put the holiday special on. So maybe after this podcast, they will. They'll see it, and if you want to ask them to, they can because we would all love access to it. It is
Well,
worth preserving in history.
if you read some of the fan letters that I'm receiving now, and I'm not joking. I get at least, and being dead honest, I get at least 5 to 10 uh, detailed letters. They aren't just send me your autograph or send me a picture or whatever. They go into detail on why they loved the special and what it meant to them as a kid growing up, and they're very heartwarming. And I'm saving a lot of them just originally for my kids to read, but then I thought maybe there'll be of value to Star Wars fans in the future. And so, uh, with people like you uh, championing championing the entire Star Wars franchise and including the Star Wars Holiday Special as an important part of it, of the history, is very, very gratifying from my viewpoint and as a director and a producer.
It's canon, and even if it weren't, it would be canon in our hearts. So thank you. We are very grateful that you made it. So it's history. It's for posterity. It's forever.
Exactly. I thought when I started directing way back in ancient days, that my shows would be seen once and never seen again. Uh, this is before videotape and CDs and DVDs. I think I had probably 10 of my old shows in DVDs and digital uh, television that have been transferred and shown in theaters. So, from my standpoint, everything is a bonus and great gratification in terms of having worked with artists who held up over all these years. I remember when I did the Tammy show and talking to Mick Jagger, and I said, "What are you going to do when you're 30, Mick?"
If the world only knew.
So, you never know. And we're so filled with information now. And I just wish we would just keep it straight, keep it honest, and just tell the truth and not so much uh, politicized and distorted. I can't stand lying and I just hate to read things on the internet that are just absolutely untruthful. And I think we really need to focus on cleaning up, uh, what 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 we see and hear every day. And we tend to say if it's in a newspaper, if it's on television, it's got to be the truth. When we know these days, you have to fact check almost everything.
And well, it's good you're so genuine too, because that really comes across, and that shows too in the work. I mean, and it does ripple across time. Look, look at all the ancillary material. Here's a little Life Day comic that came out a few years ago.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
cute.
so and Boba Fett, of course, originated in that cartoon. I just think it's so fascinating that these little pieces have become part of the larger Star Wars uni universe and part of the fandom. You know, those lumpy, for instance, even little things uh, ripple out farther and more than you know. And without your critical additions to that Star Wars galaxy, who knows what shape it would take today? It's kind of like the butterfly effect. Maybe certain characters wouldn't exist. Would Jango Fett have existed? The clone army, it's one of the earliest foundation points. You're one of the earliest pillars. That's the best way of putting it. You're a pillar that created this galaxy. And with the 1977 movie and yours, and then Empire, it just kept building.
One of the great memories I have from shooting the holiday special was the uh, remote operator on R2D2 had him following me around the stage.
Oh,
Because it wasn't
That's
Kenny Baker
great.
that time. That's
That's
funny.
great.
And yeah, I even have a picture of that, and it's one of my favorites.
Oh, that is fun.
Please share if you ever get the chance. We'd love to see that photo. That's hysterical.
Anyway, I appreciate you guys carrying the torch and asking me to be part of this interview. And I just hope that the new fans are added every year uh, to to it. And I think what would be really helpful is your suggestion that Disney put out a DVD or a digital copy of it. Uh, I think they have nothing to be ashamed of.
You hear that,
I
Disney? This is the soundbite
right.
we'll use.
Exactly. No, I think it's beautiful. We're so happy you took the time today. I think you are a pinnacle of the idea that we do these things for the love of them. Like that's just the love of it, whether it's Star Wars or Elvis or all of these wonderful acts that you've worked with. You're the king of variety shows in my eyes, and variety shows are done for the love of something.
I appreciate it, Christine. And my kind of logo over all these years has been whatever you do it with passion. And I tried to keep up with that no matter what the genre was. Uh, I loved having, as stressful as it was at times, I love having an eclectic career where I just didn't keep repeating doing the same thing over and over again. And I was given the opportunity to do so many fantastic projects. Uh, I have a great relationship with Diana Ross, and when I did Central Park in front of 1 million people, I couldn't get over seeing the joy in the faces of the people, uh, who flooded the park uh, under unbelievable circumstances with this really heavy rainstorm. And I was amused that as I looked around the perimeter of Central Park, the sun was shining. the, the, the entire rainstorm was just on us. And it took an ordinary concert of Diana's in Central Park to make it an international news story as well. So I've been very appreciative of my luck in doing these kinds of projects.
Well, you're a true director, and more industry professionals should take a page out of your book, or just a cue from you. But speaking of your books, I just wanted to mention that for those interested, Steve Binder has the Elvis '68 comeback book, the story behind the special. It's available on Amazon and really any of the online retailers by Thunder Bay Press. Came out in 2022. And for those interested in watching more about the Elvis '68 special and how he created that and really revived Elvis's career thereafter, there's the documentary Reinventing Elvis, the '68 comeback, which came out in 2023. And you can find it online, I believe, Apple TV Plus.
Appreciate that very much. I think the response already, I can't believe it, but even on Simon and Schuster on their website, it's 100% five-star reviews, and uh, and quite a few people have purchased the book and read it, and it kind of blows me away that all of my experiences with almost all the stars I've worked with, uh, aside from Diana Ross and doing a television series for Motown and Mac Davis, they've all been one shots. And I never knew Elvis before I started work on the '68 comeback special. And the day we said our final goodbye when we wrapped up production, I never saw or talked to him again. Uh, but uh, it's so gratifying to know, it'll live on forever. And I feel that way about, no matter what Lucas's opinion about me personally or the special that we did, uh, I think he's made such a major contribution to the creative arts and his vision in science fiction. And the testament is the hundreds of millions of fans around the world. And so again, thank you for putting me on and letting me speak my piece. I don't think I've actually spoken about this very often to anybody. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, we're
Well, we
so
appreciate
happy.
the exclusive time. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you, Steve. And you know what? Those 5 stars are well deserved. Extraordinary claim for an extraordinary life. And we're back after an absolutely delightful conversation with Steve Binder. That made my year. I don't know about you, James.
That made my life. Yeah, I just love talking with celebrities or just people of note who've created and contributed something to the world. And he's created many of those, and he seems to really be happy and enjoy his life and enjoy the work that he's done. And that's talking to him kind of made me want to feel that way too. Like I work in publishing and books and whatnot, and that's how I want to feel and look back on my career too, saying I did all these wonderful things with these wonderful people. I even you and Steve, I have that same memory as well, and I want to cherish that and hold on to that and build those bridges. So I really love Steve's attitude, his personality, his perspective on things, and that's kind of what you need in the Star Wars universe. Especially, you need can-do attitudes, you need positivity, you need people who just look at the glass as half full. Because if you think negative, you're going to make negative stuff, which isn't always a bad thing
Right?
depending on the genre. But or you can make bad stuff. But I don't think this was bad in the way that some fans unfairly malign it. I think they're not looking at it through the right lens. Um, like if you're judging it by like a variety show compared to like The Godfather, of course they're apples and oranges. But in this case, it's fantastic because it's so deeply psychological. It's so there's so much lore and history to it when you actually dig deeper, watch the documentary on it, and when you get to hear Steve's perspective as well, you see things from a light that we wouldn't have had otherwise. This is an exclusive interview. This is a very you know unique and once in a lifetime kind of peeling back his brain, seeing how the sauce is made, Oz behind the curtain sort of thing. It's very rare to get that, so I was really, really grateful, and it's made my life. Yeah. How about you?
No. Oh my gosh. I loved his joyous attitude about it. His memories that he said, like, I just remember it being fun on set, and it came in like he came in literally at the 11th hour, not having been part of the creative development of it at all, and just kind of ran with it. Like, I feel like it's so hard nowadays to do that. Like, you rarely have people who can just pick something up and run with it. Like, we're just gonna figure it out along the way, and he just has such fond memories of it. Like, he doesn't remember having a bad time on set, or it would have been so easy for him to feel frustrated or feel put in a corner or feel like this heavy obligation of, oh, I guess I'll do this favor. He just came in, and he loved it. He was excited.
Yeah.
Like any of us would be excited to get the call. Like, do I want to come make a Star Wars whatever the fuck? Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And he was so happy, and just like having his time, especially the time of somebody who has lived such an extraordinary life and encountered such extraordinary people, and been able to execute like such a creative vision, was really a delight. And to know that he has such positive, like, turns out has such positive feelings about the Star Wars special really makes me look at it in a far kinder light than I think we would have otherwise.
And for the record, none of us get paid behind this. This is all hobby, leisure, just joy and passion. So it's all honest and genuine. You could take everything at face value, and you could really see that it was there in the light in his eyes and the way he spoke and just his recollections. Really fascinating. It went deeper than I expected, in the sense that I didn't really know how much there was to it. And hearing him delineate all of these memories shows me how much I don't know. And you can look at that really with any production. You always wonder how the sauce is made. We just get the sauce, but we don't see what went into it. We were so lucky to get just a glimpse of that, a glance via Steve. So we really appreciate that.
Oh my God. Having him on is like the most humbling thing. Like I said, that just made my year, possibly the past 5 years of my life, and the subsequent following 5.
Yeah, it's once in a lifetime, really.
Right? Almost like watching the Star Wars Holiday Special, or it aired only once.
Well, now this too will be available for posterity. So now that this interview is pretty exclusive, you guys can go on Wikipedia. He doesn't have many podcast appearances, so this can join I guess, the collective, and you're able to now frame this side by side. We hope that in conjunction to Star Wars and the holiday special, you watch the Disturbance of the Force documentary and this podcast, which you're already watching. But so it all is in dialogue with one another. I think that's the important thing. If you're truly interested in doing a deep dive into the work, just juggle them all, and then make your opinions and thoughts and broaden your perspectives.
Right, we are now a ball to juggle. No, but thank you again, Steve Binder, for your time. It was really an absolute delight to speak with you. I think for closing thoughts on the holiday special, it's Star Wars. Enjoy it for what it is.
Yep.
Don't overthink it. Just watch it, like it. If you don't, the galaxy keeps on spinning.
Have some eggnog, watch it with your kids if you got them, and maybe one day they'll show their kids, and that's just what it is. Paying it forward, keeping this stuff alive for the next generation. And I cannot emphasize enough, Disney, please officially release the holiday special. Put it on Disney Plus. Don't be ashamed of it. It sounds like you're shying away from it. Maybe there's legal reasons, but you have the Boba Fett cartoon. Show that special. You could do a content warning, say this may not be what you expect, but you could still enjoy it. You do that with other stuff. Disney, there's certainly no reason. So please, Steve Binder, Kristine, and I kindly ask you, pretty please with Sugar on Top, make the canon Star Wars Holiday Special available for all fans to watch, so they don't have to go on YouTube and watch a degraded version.
Right? Not even YouTube. I watched it on some shady website, and
Right.
I could have gotten a virus.
Right.
I
You don't want
want
to
get a virus.
you don't want us going to the Eastern European servers for this special. Please
Right.
just put it right on the page, on the Star Wars timeline page.
All right, fingers crossed for big things to come. Oh my gosh. To keep up with everything Mind the Force, please hit up mindtheforce.com and Instagram and Facebook. Check us out on all of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. Shoot us 5 stars so the internet knows we're cool. This has been another very exciting and special episode of Mind the Force. We'll see you next time, and stay mindful.
Stay mindful, crowd. See you.